Welcome to the Michael Berry Show. An explosive verdict in Houston, Texas today. For those of you in markets outside of Houston, we very rarely talk about inside Houston stuff. But the fact pattern of what happened today happens across the country. These sorts of things, jury verdicts that people don't like. And a big one in Houston today. Shades of Trayvon Martin, shades of Rodney King, shades of race riots, shades of race and police officers. Young black men and problems with authority. What happens when it appears before a jury? What happens when the jury verdict is not what some black activists would want it to be? Let me first say this. We are going to have the first interview with DeGuerin, the attorney for the officer who was accused, and today a jury came back with not guilty. We're going to have the first interview with Andrew Blomberg, the accused, who can now walk free. But before we do that, let me say to that jury, you will come under a lot of fire. You will be called a lot of names. But thank you. Because you showed up for jury duty. And you did what none of us want to do. You are to be admired and respected because everyone else can criticize you. But you went down there and showed up when a lot of people cheat jury duty. And for that, I say thank you. You didn't ask to be on the jury. You did your duty. And I respect you, and I admire you. And no matter what anybody says about you, thank you for your service. Dick DeGuerin is the attorney for Andrew Blomberg. By way of full disclosure, he has been my attorney in the past. And I think, you spend your money with people you trust, that if he's not the best, I don't know who's better. Dick, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
What did you tell a jury that saw a video of four guys who most people would say, well, at least upon the first review of the video, well, a terrible thing happened back March 24th, 2010, and yet your client was determined to be not guilty by a jury of 6 of his peers today. What did you tell them?
Well, I told them the truth, and I told them that Andrew Blomberg was a hero, and that what he did, very few of us have the courage to do, but he did it without hesitation because he was protecting you and me. And when you see what Andrew did on that video, you understand that what he was trying to do was to arrest what he thought to be and he was right about it, a fleeing burglar who might be dangerous and might be armed.
Now, as I understand it, the tactical team had been following this group, this band of 4 burglars, and they set up on a house. The guys come out of the house, and then they chase them, and the guys start throwing the stolen goods. As I understand it, none of those facts are in dispute, right?
None of that is in dispute, except it was a gang of probably 6 burglars, 3 Hispanics and 3 blacks. It happened to be on this particular day there were 3 young black males and a young Hispanic male that was driving the getaway truck, the one that was casing the area of residences for burglaries. And
so the individual, one of the burglars, who's been convicted of burglary since then, runs from the officers. An officer pulls up. He jumps over that officer's hood, lands on the ground, and your client, Mr. Blomberg, Officer Blomberg, pulls up, and he is the first on the scene. And in the video, you see his foot go toward the back of the suspect. Now, we know the burglar, Chad Holley. What exactly happened?
What Andrew did was he was chasing that burglar, and he was planning on tackling him, which takes a lot of courage just in making that determination. But when Chad Holley didn't quite make it over the hood of the police car and fell, Andrew ran to his side, saw that his hands were free, and he tried to secure his hands and tried to get his hands behind his back so they could be handcuffed. And he did that with his feet. He did that without going to the ground with him. But in the split seconds that he had to make a decision of what to do, he brought his foot forcefully down on Chad Holley's arm and elbow in an effort to try to get his hands behind his back.
Now, I consulted a number of people today, and some of them officers, and they said, Michael, you have to understand, when the suspect put his hands behind his head, This was the first time he had been arrested, but the officers didn't know this. We put his hands behind his head. For all they knew, he was laying on a TAC-9 because a gun was stolen the day before. As I understand, these facts were all put into evidence. And that what he was doing was trying to sweep his hands away from his head down back behind his back so that he could actually cuff him.
That's correct. He was trying to get him cuffed or get him in a position where the other officers could get him cuffed. And he had to be cuffed behind his back because that's the only safe place to cuff a suspect.
Well, there are 4 officers who've been charged, and your client went to trial first. And most everybody I talk to says that this is the case. If you were an officer, this would be the easiest case to win. You, of course, went to trial first, and they point out that that's because for most of the time of what's going on, which is in dispute, whether it's a beating or necessary force, your client runs away to go help another officer who's in a fight.
That's right. Once Andrew, in the split seconds that he was there, realized that more officers were there to secure Chad Holley, he looked up and saw that one officer was having difficulty getting the driver out of the pickup truck. So he ran down and helped that officer secure that suspect. He felt that he was needed more there, where it was one-on-one rather than where Chad Holley was.
And is it your position that do you believe he violated HPD policy in what he did?
No.
But he was fired?
Yes.
And their determination was that he violated policy, not that he committed a crime, but that he violated policy.
That was the chief's determination, and frankly, I think it was a political determination. And I think they were, the police department, the chief, and the mayor were forced into it because they were afraid of the reaction of the public once the video came out. The video's ugly, but if you're a police officer, you understand what's going on that video, and the chief should have understood that.
And the elements of the crime of official oppression, what are those elements?
It's intentional mistreatment of someone, knowing that mistreatment is unlawful, and in this case, they alleged it was by striking Chad Holley with Officer Blumberg's feet. But the defense, which is a statutory defense in Texas, and in fact, it's common sense that officers have the right, they are justified in using force when and to the extent they reasonably believe it's necessary to make an arrest or to assist in making an arrest or to prevent an escape. It's real simple. If a person who's subject to being arrested resists arrest, then the officer has the right to use whatever force is necessary to put that person in custody.
Let's talk about that, Dick. Can you hold us for just a moment?
Sure.
Is Andrew going to be able to talk to us?
He's on the line with us.
All right. Andrew Blumberg will also be our guest. He's the officer who was determined by a jury of his peers today to be not guilty. Stay tuned for that.
Everybody here wants some pie. We prefer to eat our own pie. Thank you. Get your own. The Michael Berry Show.